Hello once more. Today we look at power. Okay, in the section of work, power, and machines, today we look at the equation of power. And let's write that down. The equation says power equals work over time. So this is a straight out equation. If I have a certain work to be done, how long does it take me to get it done? That is power. Not how much force you're putting into it, but in how long you're completing the job. Now, out of this equation, I could take two other equations out of it, and I could say that time times power equals work. Okay, so time times power equals work. Okay, back to the original. Now, can I solve for time on this equation also? Yes, I can. Because if I bring time up again and I bring power down, now I have time that it took me to get the job done is the work divided by the power. Okay, back to the original. What are the units of these variables? Okay, so I have that power is measured in watts. Watts is what measures power. Okay, let's bring that up so it looks not so clumsy over here. And let's change that. So power is measured in watts. How about work? We did it in the past, and work is measured in joules. We did it before. And of course, time, in this case, we're going to measure in seconds. So these are the measuring units of these variables. Work is measured in joules because we did in the past. Okay, let's make that plural. Joules. And time is measured in seconds, and power is measured in watts. Okay, having said this, can we abbreviate this units? Yes, we can. We could call power W. We could call joules J, like we did in the past, and we could call seconds just SEC. And these are your units. Power equals work over time. Let's do some sample questions. Sample 1 says, a man is exerting 3,200 joules in 20 seconds while lifting a heavy desk. What was his power? Okay, as in other occasions, I like to rewrite the equation itself. So let's do that. Here's the equation. Power equals work over time. If I look carefully, the question is asking me to find power. Power is what I'm searching for. That's my main goal. So as always, I want to make sure that I know what I'm searching for. So now just plug in your numbers. And I have that work is 3,200. How do I know? Because it is joules, and joules is work. And man is exerting 3,200 joules in 20 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to write 3,200, 3,200 joules. Okay, now I will divide that by my time, which is 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Okay, if I do the math carefully, I could simply see that I don't need a calculator for this because I could cancel 1 0 with 1 0, and now I have 320 divided by 2, and 320 divided by 2 gives me 160. What is that? Watts. Just double should be sufficient. Okay, so exerting 3,200 joules in 20 seconds will give me 160 watts of power. Now, the work that I do doesn't really make a difference in the power, but it is the time that it takes me to get it done. Let's look at sample 2. Sample 2 says, A man is exerting 3,200 joules in 50 seconds while lifting a heavy desk. What was his power? Now, I have more time to deal with. The equation remains the same. The joules or the force is the same because it is the same desk that is being lifted. So here's the equation. I am looking for power, and I do have work, which is 3,200 joules, and I have my time, which is 50 seconds. Plug those numbers in, and we end up with 3,200 joules, okay, divided by how much is my time? 50 seconds. Now I have much more time to deal with because this person is taking more time to do the same job as the other one. What is the answer? The answer is 64 watts. So it took this man more time to lift the same desk. Since it took him more time to do the same job, he has less power than the one on sample 1. The power is less, but the work being done is the same, just that it took him longer to do the same job. The next sample says, a toy boat has a power of 500 watts and it can cross a canal in 25 seconds. How many joules of work is the boat performing? I'm looking for this case for work. So I will rewrite the equation so that work is what I'm searching for. So I will bring time up. I will bring time up because I'm looking for work. Now, plug in my numbers, and I have 500 watts. Okay, I'm going to write time first because I have that under time. 25 seconds times 500 watts. All right, so do the math and see what you get. The answer should be, and I'm sure you got it right, one, sorry, 12,500 joules of work. That's how much work the little boat is performing in order to carry out the crossing of the canal in 25 seconds. So I have 25 seconds times 500 watts, which is I'm looking for work, and I end up with 1200, sorry, yes, 12,000, sorry, 500 seconds, 12,500 seconds, or 1,500 joules. Good job. Sample 4. The question could also get a little complicated. Question says, a machine outputs 20 meters with a force of 20 newtons. How many watts are needed in order to move an object in 5 seconds? Okay, so I am looking for power because it says watts, but I don't have work. How can I find work? So I don't have work. I'm looking for power and I have time. How can I look for work? But hold up, I know that I could find work by doing force times distance. Do I have the force? Yes, I have 20 newtons of force, 40 newtons of force. Do I have the distance? Yes, 20 meters. So I could find work. Let's do that little side note first and look for work. And it says that work equals force times distance. And I do have distance. So let's do that. Let's plug in those numbers. And I have that work, which is 40 newtons, times my distance, which is 20 newtons. How much would I end up with? Let's do the math. It's here on paper. And I have 40 times 20. Carry over here. And I have 40 times 20. 4 times 2 is 8. So I have a total of 800. That's my work. I have 800 joules. So now I have work. This is my little side note to find work because the question is asking me to find power, but I don't have work. Now I could plug in these values in the equation for power, and I have 800 joules divided by In this case, I have, excuse me, time, which is 5 seconds. Okay, so do the math and see what you get. I'm sure you got this. If you divide 800 over 5, it gives you 160. So the answer is 160 watts is your answer because you divided the work over the time. So let's go over this. The question is asking me to find work, which is watts, but I didn't have work because eventually I need to find power. Let me rephrase that. Questions ask me to find power, sorry, which is watts, but I don't have work. Okay, so I plug in the values of force times distance to give me work. There I have it, 800 divided by the time given to me, which is 5 seconds, and I have 160 joules of watts or power. So the question is asking for watts, which is power, and I needed to find work over time. There you go, work over time. That gives you watts or power. Okay, so we just looked at 4 sample questions with the equation of power, which is work over time, which is watts equals joules over seconds. I hope this helps you out.